Mic is turned off. Wow, that was interesting. That was a 1 second introduction. And I'm gonna go over here and check this. I don't know what's going on. I haven't used Prism for a few days here, and suddenly I don't have the live stream indicator and all this other stuff on there, but okay. Now let's see. Okay, yeah. I think everything's fine. All right, I'm just gonna leave it like this. Hi everyone, MJ here. Welcome to Taiwan and the real Taiwan. I swear I set the introduction for a minute. It looked like a second. I don't know what's going on. We're at the Hukou Industrial Park, and I'm out in a park beside the main entrance. There's a kind of not really like a monument, but there's kind of like, it's like a modern mini Stonehenge. Solar panels on the side and lights and stuff that light up for a couple hours after sundown. I was gonna go over there. I was gonna sit on the steps. Hey, finally made it, yeah. Thanks, Dean, good to see you, fist bump. I was gonna go over there, but you know, like everything else in Taiwan, I walked over there, there's some guy sitting there smoking a cigarette and looking at his phone, so I just don't want to disturb him, but that's okay. But so it's been, you know, a while since we came back from France. It's been, gosh, almost 3 weeks. Doesn't seem like it. And I gotta tell you, for the first like week and a half, man, every night I was going to sleep and I thought I was still there. And I had such an amazing time. And wow, it's just, our hosts were just so fantastic. By the way, it's absolutely pitch black out here. If I go like this, there's nothing. I could, in theory, aim the light down and maybe make it a little less harsh. I guess that's better, probably. Yeah, and the iPhone has some pretty good low light capability, but yeah. We're just getting back into things, and what happened was I got my hair cut. You guys know that I posted some of this on Facebook, silly stuff we post. I got my hair cut by Marvin in Paris, and I took a bunch of pictures of it, and so I just went over to my local barber and I showed him the pictures, and he goes, yeah, that's a vintage style haircut, and he matched it. It's like, I'm like, wow, it's got the wave on it and everything, man. So he, yeah, got the same part on the side. I'm like, all right. But the difference is, I got my haircut in Paris, cost 25 euros. I got it cut today. It cost $5 US. I don't really feel like showing those photos right now. They're all on my phone, so. Fist bump, Ken Rod, good evening, and good morning there. Thanks for joining, everyone. We're gonna have just a beer out here. I'm drinking a dark beer. Actually, I got a couple. I'm not gonna drink all of them, but this is called Saint Vendeler, I guess is how you say it. And it's black beer, so it's dark beer. But quite frankly, I've been having more PVCs, premature ventricular contractions, than I would like to have. And sometimes when I drink beer, it relaxes me. So I haven't been getting enough sleep. I haven't been sleeping really well. I've been sleeping terrible. My voice is shot. I was trying to do some singing in the studio. I sounded like a frog. It's terrible. I don't know why. Just not sleeping. Slept like a baby in France. Of course, the day I walked up the Eiffel Tower, got over 11,000 steps. Then the next day we went to the Louvre, and we just did all these things like rapid succession to the Louvre, and then I walked another 11,000 steps. So it was a big difference. And quite frankly, getting away from Taiwan, and you know, our hosts, Patrick and Patricia, are just so unbelievably chill that it was like, whew, you know, I was just, wow. It was nice. I was actually super relaxed, and they're just so cool and patient with us, I gotta tell you. I just hope it didn't drive me crazy for 10 days, but I think it's actually more than 10 days. Anyway, yeah, so back in Taiwan, I'm actually looking, I got a bunch of decisions to make, and decision making, or just the prospect of decision making, can be very difficult. And I'm trying to decide if I want to sell this house. Somebody's interested in it, in the house. If I want to sell this house we got and buy another one, move to Hsinchu City, which I would like to, but it would take a lot of doing to do that. And then, and I'm looking today at some places, rent a room in my neighborhood that I can put my studio in. There are a couple candidates, a couple pretty decent candidates actually. What is this? What is this? Is that from the, that's from the gimbal. Oh, okay, because there is a light out here. So I'm trying to avoid having this big strong light facing on me. And the light is, it's a Ulanzi video light, you know, and it's really powerful for its size. I had it on, dead on my face at the beginning. It was just too much. But see if I go like this, I don't know. I'll just go like that. How about that? And just trying to avoid looking completely terrible. So behind me you might see, yeah, there's like a red thing over there. That's somebody's home temple. Most houses in Taiwan have a spirit room, and you know, it's where they have their maybe a shrine dedicated to their parents, their grandparents, ancestors. Usually leave offerings there, like fruit and stuff, incense and things. But anyway, let me see if I gotta do this. And maybe center a little bit more. There you go. We're out here and running the main road, and I got like really fast internet and 5G, and of course the iPhone does it very well. So I'm rocking 4,000 kbps at 30 frames a second. I could go full 4K if I wanted to, but why did anybody want to see me in 4K? So I always do these live streams in 720. So I was talking with Dave today, Dave in Osaka, about there's this really interesting building. It's hexagonal, and it looks like a big chess piece kind of. It's about 7 stories high, and it's tapered at the top, and there's a cap on top, and there's windows all the way around. Never been inside, but it's abandoned. It's part of the funeral home complex, and it was some kind of pagoda. It has fallen into disuse, been abandoned, and most of the lower floors, all the windows are busted out, but the ones on the top are still intact. So I'm gonna go there and take a look at it. I'm gonna go up inside and take some photographs. It's up on a hill, and it's surrounded by graves, and these are above ground interment, you know, which is, I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. It'd be interesting, I think, to just surreptitiously and very kind of on the sly photographing, because people don't really like to have tombs photographed. I don't blame them. It's a local superstition. But I want to go in the building and see what it looks like, and maybe shoot some video in there. See, I got my 360 back from the shop, which reminds me, I'm always complaining about how I find stuff. I find flaws in programs and hardware and software. You know, it would be interesting, and it might make for an interesting live stream. I have to check and see what I can do, what I can get inside for. No, I got it, Ken. Thanks. I'm fluent in typo. That's okay, bro. I'd like to see what I got inside for connection speed. You know what the connectivity is. It should be good, but who knows? I might go up there in the middle of the night, do a live stream. Who knows? But I'm always finding stuff, and it bugs me. And the question that I'm always asking myself is, am I the only one in the world that noticed this? And from what I'm about to tell you, I think the answer is yes. It all came about with my 360 camera. Now, you guys know It's on my channel, The Real Taiwan. If you go back a couple of months, I posted a short video. It's not a short, but it's a regular video, but it's just not that long. It's entitled What Really Happened to My 360 Camera. And you see that I tripped over my own big feet because there was an incline, and the incline was almost invisible. I was wearing a mask. It was back during the mask mandates. And when you're wearing a mask, you know, it's hard to see straight down, you know, unless you're bending your head down. And I was looking forward. I had the camera, and all of a sudden, there was a ledge because right behind the ledge was an incline like this, okay? And I'm walking towards the incline, and I didn't see it. And, you know, it's like, you guys have, everybody's done that. Step off a curb, didn't know a curb was there, you lose your balance. And I went down, man. I went down hard, and I hit the camera, and I broke it. Oh, I was pissed. And I just didn't want to deal with it. And Insta360 always makes it difficult. I don't know why, if it's Taiwan or what, but I contacted, there's a Facebook group, there's a messenger chat group. Everybody said I got to call this company, and I got to give them, you know, where I bought it, and the date I bought it, and all this stuff. I go, I don't know that stuff, man. I don't want to have to look at that. I don't want my wife to have to rifle through. Yeah, this was 8 months ago, 10 months ago. I said, and this isn't a warranty repair, so it doesn't matter. I'm just going to get, you know, I should be able to just give you my name and where I live, and, you know, you can tell from the serial number if the thing's been reported stolen. I mean, what are you trying to prove? Anyway, so, you know, I put it off, and I put it off, and I put it off. And then I was going to go to France. I was like, oh, crap, I got to have my 360 camera. So I contacted this third-party authorized repair shop, and they said it would be a month or 5 weeks. I'm like, oh. So it's my fault. I waited too long. So then I said, hey, you know what? I'm going to take it back to where I bought it. And that's what I did. I took it back to Nova, and I said, camera's broken. He goes, okay. Filled out a little form. I forgot if I don't think I gave him any money right then, but he called me like 2 days later, and he said, I mean, he shipped it to Taipei. A couple days after that, he called me and he said, they'll fix the camera for 4,000 NT. I said, okay. So that's, you know, it's not that much money. So, because 1,000 NT is 30 bucks. So it's like 120 bucks to fix the cameras. Okay, great. So I, unfortunately, before they'll do it, you know, I have to go to the place and pay them in advance. So I went back to Nova. I'm in that area all the time anyway. I just paid them 4,000. And the camera was fixed about 4 days after I already arrived in France. So it's my fault. And I don't have any 360s. Like I was on the Eiffel Tower and all these places, I could have just done some amazing 360 stuff. It's my fault. But the long and short of it is, when I got back, it was all fixed and all ready. But now here's what happened. In the intervening time between when I broke the camera and now, you guys know I have gone to the dark side. I am now using an Apple iPhone, you know, 14 Pro Max. And so I have been installing all the old apps that I used to have under Android, and a lot of them aren't available. And, you know, so, it's amazing because, as a side note, some of the iOS apps are so unbelievably slick and so cool looking, but they don't have, I mean, there's some really nice Android apps too. And I had paid for a bunch of really nice Android apps, some HD weather apps and some astronomy apps and stuff, not available on iOS. And the funny thing is, well, it's not really funny, but the ones that I already paid for that are available on iOS, I had to pay for them again. That's okay. So I installed the Insta360 app. And I had seen on YouTube, and this used to just tick me off. A lot of these guys are doing editing and really like complex editing of their Insta360 videos on an iPhone. And it has some functions and functionality that's not available on Android. Well, that ticked me off, to start with. Part of the reason that I got the iPhone, as you guys know, you've heard me talk about this, is that I was sick and tired of the half-baked multimedia implementation of a lot of things. And way back in the broadcast days, the Russian and Ukrainian engineers that worked on broadcast told me that the iPhone is the best phone for live streaming because of the video preprocessors. And John Sabot, you know, from Far East Adventure, right? He and I used to talk about how he could put a Moondog anamorphic lens on his iPhone and shoot anamorphic and have it encode on the fly. It's amazing. So I got the iPhone, and you know, it looks really nice, and there is some really fantastic capabilities like the Dolby Vision. And the funny thing, I didn't realize this, I'm using my OM4 DJI gimbal tonight, you know, the one with the pistol grip. It's not the, you know, the selfie stick, and it's not my new Flow. It's the one I had before. The Mimo app, that is the built-in, you know, the app that's designed to be used with this gimbal, also supports Dolby Vision. I was like, oh, you gotta be kidding me. And I can shoot 24 frame cinematic Dolby Vision with that gimbal. I was like, holy cow. Suddenly, this gimbal's back in my stable. Because I was thinking about getting rid of it because I got the Flow. The Flow app doesn't support that, and it doesn't surprise me because Insta360 is ahead in some things, but behind in other things. Let me elaborate. Insta360's tracking is off the charts. If I have the gimbal set up on its own tripod or on a separate tripod, and I you know, highlight something, or I get somebody to highlight me, and you can turn it on and off with a trigger too. And I got to tell you, it will, you know, you can disappear behind a tree, you can disappear behind other people, it will pick you up on the other side. It's amazing. Their tracking is way ahead of DJI, which I wish somehow the DJI tracking could be improved, because it's the same with the drone. The DJI tracking on the drone is just okay, but it's not super good. I wish I had the Insta360 level tracking on my drone that I have on the Flow gimbal. But here's the problem. I use my 360 camera for video, but I use it just as much for photography, for still photos. I would go places and do live streams, and I would take individual 360 photos and upload them like on Facebook. You guys remember when I was doing Hey Go, and I would go to a place and do a really nice Hey Go tour, and then I would take a bunch of interesting photos of people who could pan around and see. They could see what they were watching on the, if they watched the stream, and even if they didn't, they could just see some pretty detailed information. And one of the best ways to use an Insta360 camera to make sure that you've got everything that you want and you don't have to fool around with it is to walk around with the invisible selfie stick and shoot in interval mode. And I set my camera for every 3 seconds. I would walk slow. And so you'd figure, you know, it's going 1001, 1002, 1003, fire, 1001, 1002, 1003, fire, you know, taking about 1 step every second. That's a fair amount of pictures. And out of all those photographs, if I walk for 15 or 20 minutes, I have quite a collection. I'm gonna get some good photos out of that. Some are gonna be blurry, some are gonna be goofy, some are gonna have, you know, glare or something, but you guys understand what I'm saying. The interval shooting is how it's dummy proof. You don't have to keep, you know, pressing the button and oh, I forgot to shoot that, because you just let it run and you just walk the course. And what happens is over time you get better and better. You understand that, hey, if I hold the stick high, it looks this way. If I hold the stick down, it looks this way. You know, so I'm walking around and I'm, you know, so with the Android app, it functions correctly, but ladies and gentlemen, here is the bombshell. Interval shooting on the Insta360 iOS app does not support the horizon lock. Let me repeat that. if you are shooting interval photos on your Insta360, this is the 1X2. I do not own the X3. The X3 is not a big enough upgrade for me to bother with it. The 1X2, if I shoot interval photos and I try to edit them, the horizon is not locked on the iOS app. It is locked on the Android app, and I made a video demonstrating this. I am strongly considering releasing this video because I think it's important. But why in the heck am I the only one that discovered this? Because I've been going back and forth with Insta360's tech department, and you know, finally Alina said, well, I gotta escalate this. I don't know what the problem is. I gotta bring it, you know. She said, can you provide a video? I said, yeah. So I spent 2 days, I made a video. I even sent them a zip file of all those photos I went to this Thai place, man. I got the, you know, my selfie stick. These guys are singing karaoke and stuff. I'm just taking interval photos. It took like 60 photos or something, you know, and just guys having fun, and they don't care. I had their permission, and I wrapped all those up, and I showed them which, you know, files I used for the example in my video, and I also uploaded another completely unrelated 360 photo that I had taken interval and exported it with the app. Because here's the important thing: when you export it, the horizon lock problem remains. See, it would be bad enough it was just if you're just reframing the photo. See, what happens is when you're reframing the photo, okay, it goes like this, and then it gets like a sphere, right? And you go down and it's like this, right? But when you're in the center, it goes like this. When the horizon is not locked and you go like this, the image twists, and it twists along the axis of the camera. So if you hold the selfie stick and you've got the thing flat like this, you can get a usable picture out of it if you adjust it to the mid-range section. But if you have the camera slightly tilted, then that's your axis of rotation, and everything is going to be like around that. It's stupid, but it works fine on Android. So I told her, I said, look, this is Insta360 tech support. I got an $1,100 iPhone, but I'm keeping my cheap $300 Chinese Xiaomi so I can edit these photos, because I'm not going to stop taking interval photos just because you guys don't know. I was flipping. I ended up apologizing. She says, don't worry, because it's called Horizon Lock on Android, but it's called Flow State Stabilization on iOS. And I went, my video shows me turning flow state off and on in the app to export, and it doesn't solve the problem. In fact, it works half-baked. It's probably solvable, because what I did was I held the camera with, you know, straight out like this, and then I held it at a 45, and then I held it at a 180 for interval photos. And the interval photos show up as photos in a timeline, you know, much like a movie, but they're individual frames instead of, you know, a movie. And so the first couple photos where the camera's like this, they're fine. And then sure enough, the preview, they're like this, and then they're like this. So I said, well, let me turn flow state off. And what flow state off was, it moved it slightly. Okay, so I turned flow state back on, and it locked it to where the axis of the camera was, not to the horizontal. I'm like, okay, that's the problem. So I told him, I said, listen, you need to start by figuring out what the difference is between those two. So the flow state recognizes true horizontal. But for the love of all that is good, why do I have to be the one to tell them this? All these guys, I mean, before I bought the 1X2, there's so many excellent content creators doing amazing things with this 1X2, but I guess they're all shooting video. I didn't see anybody talking about editing interval photos. They just, you know, oh, it's got, you know, time shift, and it's got time lapse, all this stuff, and interval shooting. And that's always, they don't show you doing it. They just say, okay, you know, if you want to take interval, yeah, but guess what? If you're on iOS, you're screwed. And of course, if you wanted to, you can import that into the desktop app and it works fine there, but the desktop app doesn't have some of the features that you, oh, this is crazy. iOS has all of the features, but with interval photos, the horizon lock doesn't work. With normal photos, it works. If you're just hand holding the camera and pressing the button, of course you'll have your fingers and stuff on the bottom, but if you're walking around with your selfie stick and your phone and you're pressing the button on the phone and you're taking manual pictures, it works fine. It's the interval ones that don't work. And I don't know. I don't know why anybody doesn't know this. So I know you guys are listening, and that's why you're not responding, because I'm doing another diatribe. But let me ask you a question. Should I release this video? Should I do the expose, you know, the engineer's review of this issue? Because I like them, and they, just like DJI though, they don't really listen. I had a couple of excellent suggestions related to safety that I thought were very important. Okay, I'll do it. And I couldn't get DJI to listen. I said, you know, one thing about DJI with the drone, I said, listen, I would like to see my true altitude. Okay, I'll do it. I'd like to see my true altitude on the display. No, we're not going to give that to you. Why? No reason. I wrote them back in Chinese. I said, you need to give it to us because altitude makes, real true altitude makes a difference. Here's why. When I got my drone, I didn't realize until after I flew it a couple times and really paid attention to the altimeter. Your height above the starting point is the height above the starting point. It ain't above ground level, okay? And so my house is 13 meters tall. I'm in a limited area. I can only go 60 meters high. So I was on the roof of my house. I said, yippee, I went 60 meters high. Guess what? I was 73 meters high. Nobody busted me. I made about 3 or 4 flights and I realized, oh, I gotta set this at 47. They have a slider. It's a teeny tiny dot and a teeny tiny line, and it goes like, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1500. It's like that. It's like the line's this long, and it's extremely hard. And what happens is, in order to get fine detail, you have to touch the dot and rock your finger without moving it. That's how sensitive it is. Like you can go from 50 meters to 60 meters to 75 meters like that just by rocking your finger and then pulling it off real tight and hope that you don't goof it up. That is malignantly stupid when you're talking about critical parameters like altitude. I said what you need is a box we can double tap and type it in because the controller has a keyboard. No, they said. And dozens, I researched this, of other people have requested the same thing and they just said no. I don't get these companies. Boy, it's so different dealing with Jake and the Prism Live Studio guys. Virtually everything I've asked them to check out, they have. And virtually everything that I suggested as a reasonable feature, they've added. They did all of them. It was amazing. So, but yeah. Now, unfortunately, this video that I made for Insta360 is in vertical mode because obviously we're talking about editing on a mobile phone and you hold it like this. When you go to landscape, some of the functions go away. You go to landscape if you want to review it though. Yeah, I understand, bro. I understand. You got stuff to do. You probably got to go work, right? So, guys, follow Ken if you like coffee. I'm a lurker, Ken. I don't leave a whole lot of comments, but I always give you a thumbs up, and I always check it out because you come on a lot of times at 3 and 4 a.m. my time, and anyway, so I'm like half asleep, but I want to see what you're going to talk about, and it's always interesting. So that's cool, man. And you got some good coffee gear, man. Excellent. And your channel's growing, doing a good job. Yeah, so good work. But anyway, so the video is in 9 by 16. It's vertical, and so I already made the video. You bet, bro. I already made the video, so I'll just have to do maybe some commentary along with it, or maybe not. I think probably the video is good enough. Maybe I'll come on and just introduce myself and say I've been, and tell the short story about how I broke my camera, and when I got it fixed, I changed phones, and I came back and I'm using an iPhone, and now I found this, and this is how it operates, and I had no idea that it operated that way, and why, and all this, and why nobody seems to either care or didn't notice, which is weird. I don't know. No idea. But hey, what do I know? Anyway, so how's this audio? I'm using the wireless mic so I can sit back, and it's not in stereo, but it should be okay. I really wish that guy was gone. I got a little bit too much stuff to walk over there. Well, I could throw that in the bike bag. Wouldn't mind going over there to that side, but let's just stay here. Let's just stay here because we've been on for 32 minutes, and I guess it doesn't matter. So, you guys know about the telescope, and when I went to France, of course, I didn't bring it with us, but it turns out that Patrick has one. He has got a really, really nice one. Okay, excellent, thank you. Patrick has a really, really nice one. He's got a 10-inch Meade. It's a Dobsonian mount, but it's got a SLT. It's a star locating telescope system, computerized system. It's pretty amazing. And 10-inch aperture is huge. I mean, the thing's got resolving power like nobody's business. That's exactly double what mine is. Mine's a Maxitoff Cassegrain, and this is a classic Newtonian, but it's in good shape. But I have been driving myself out of my skull looking for this comet, Nishimura, and today I just finally gave it up. You see, the comet is very close to the sun, which means that wherever the sun is rising or setting, the comet's very, very close to it. So last week, I spent a number of mornings. I stayed up basically all night because I knew I was so tired. I knew if I went to sleep that my alarm would ring and I would just go, forget it. So I forced myself to stay up. I would watch some movies and I don't know, just drink some bubble water or something. And I got up and I prepared the telescope because there's actually a hole in some of the buildings where it went down, and it's where the comet was coming up. I figured it out where the comet was going to come up. And I would get up before dawn. And of course, even an hour before dawn, it starts getting light, and especially in these southern latitudes, it can be very, very bright an hour before sunrise. And that's the one I think I showed you this. Let me see, did I show you this? Yes, this picture right here is the moon and Venus. And this is probably about 45 minutes before sunrise. And the moon, of course, is the larger object on the left. And the comet basically was going to rise just about where the moon is, very close. But what I noticed was when the moon rose, it went through several layers, several bands of clouds that obscured it. And that was a problem because the comet will, of course, rise and continue up in the sky and go all the way to the other side. But once the sun's up, you can't see it. Okay, it's like you can't really see stars during the day. Same reason. It's about magnitude. So then the comet became visible supposedly at sundown. And so I came up with this bright idea. My drone has a 48 megapixel camera. And so I started like flying the drone at dusk and taking 48 megapixel photos. The drone actually has quite a remarkable camera. And that is a shot that I took at the west, facing probably a little bit, it's going to be west-southwest. And you see the crescent moon up there in the left-hand corner. And the sun has just gone down and the comet should be visible, except there is a cloud band. And every single time, whether it's morning or night, that cloud band has been there and it doesn't go away. And I was, hey Matthew, hey, fist bump, good to see you, bro. And I have been unable to locate this comet or see it because of the cloud band, and I have given up. I have no doubt that if I was able to see it, because, I mean, you can see it with binoculars. Supposedly, it was right at the edge where you could resolve it with the naked eye, magnitude-wise. But it didn't matter, as I was scanning with my binoculars. But this is about 45, 47 meters above my house, like the maximum altitude I can, I can fly. And there's a little ridge, but basically that's right on the other side of that ridge is the water. It's the Taiwan Strait. So I'm about as low to the horizon as I can get, and I couldn't see it, couldn't find it. But today, a couple helicopters in my neighborhood. They were there yesterday too. And this only shows one. That's a corner of a building that's across the street from my house. And I shot this with an iPhone photo, and I just zoomed it in, I think about maybe 5x or 7x or something. I didn't pay attention, I just zoomed it. And these are two military. You can't see it, but right to the right of it, in front of that building's being blocked by the building, is another identical chopper. And they were hovering there, man, they're loud. Let me tell you, it takes a lot of power for those blades to chop the air enough to keep that thing up. They're heavy. And boy, it was loud, and then they flew off. They're doing some kind of maneuver. And this is a kind of a wider shot showing the helicopter there. That's from the roof of my house. It's taken today. See how hazy that is today, but I got no complaints about the camera. The camera does a really good job. But man, this reminds me of the exercises that happened in the during 2007, the year I got married. The month after I got married, a military jet crashed, and I told you this story before. So I was one of the last people to photograph it. But that whole week, if you go to Flickr, I used to be really big on Flickr. I still have a Flickr Pro, and all my photos are backed up. I just don't post any photos there anymore. I got thousands already posted. And my blog uses those. I host all my blog photos on Flickr, so I don't have to put them on the server and take up all the space. But even as it is, my blog takes up like 2 gigs. It's just text. It's amazing. Not so many images. But anyway, the week before the accident, there had been so many helicopter exercises. There would be 10 helicopters in groups of 2 and 3 just flying stationary. They'd be up there for 45 minutes. And then they would go do some kind of a circle and come back right in the exact same spot. And I just think they were practicing, you know, some combat maneuver. And what is the one, I think it's, what is the, you call it the Chinook, the double rotor front and rear, the cargo one, what do they call it, a C-47? I got a video, this back when I had my digital 420p Panasonic cinematic digital video camera. That guy flew right over my house, flew right over the top of me, so I got him going around, and you know, so now I can see you and give you a fist bump, Dean. I mean, yeah, Philip, Reed, and Dean. Yeah, so how's things going? How's the business going? Matthew, how's everything? Sometimes I don't know. I just read what's on the screen. I read Philip. Matthew, oh my goodness. How's the, yeah, it's okay, I'm tired. I didn't sleep last night. How's the business going? All right, it is overcast, but I do see a couple little stars. But I had a very, very productive night last week. It's one of the clearest nights I've ever seen for this time of year. And so, non-stop, making you old. Yeah, well, got to make the money for when you're old. But yeah. So are you kind of like that guy, you know, Fred? You wake up and it's like, time to make the donuts. Time to make the donuts, and he can't think about anything else, but it takes a lot of dedication. I hope you are amassing wealth and prosperity from this venture, and you're going to do well. It'd be nice because you want to be able to hand that on to your family. I have this discussion with my wife. I'm not against education. I just don't think everybody needs a degree. I mean, look at me. And quite frankly, a lot of the people that I know in different industries don't have degrees, but many others do. It just depends. It depends what you want to do. It depends how your approach is on things, you know. And there is such a thing as equivalency. And I'm telling my wife, you know, well, we own a business, right? It depends on the person, yeah. And you know, there are some disciplines you absolutely have to have a degree to get in. And of course, I would not want a medical doctor operating on me who didn't have a medical degree. But I did read that California will allow a person to take the bar and pass, you know, the bar without a degree if they can pass it. Hey, Mike, fist bump. Yes, well, I didn't, you're not tardy because I didn't announce it, you know, it's cool. So yeah, anyway, you know, the discussion I'm having with my wife is that I don't think, you know, my wife's really concerned about my daughter's higher education, but I go, you know, we have a business, and I think she can just, you know, run the business. All right, so I'm going to do this because the street lights went out. Now, is this too much light? Looks like a monster movie. If I put my hand on it, I block it completely. It's just like nothing there. I'm just going to fire it down. I'll just leave it fired down. That's good enough. Yeah, don't need to see me so bright. I got the lights on my bike. I think I showed that to you guys, right? We have these LED, you guys have those everywhere, those little thin, skinny LED strings. We call that an LED shin string in Chinese. And what I have done is I have wrapped it. I put a battery bank, let me do this. I put a battery bank I've got a little bag that sits in the front by the head tube, And this is my, these are my lights wrapped around the frame. And the reason I do that is so people can see me. Of course, I have a battery bank in the, in the bag, and there's a button on the USB connector so you can select different modes. But this thing will run for, a couple days on that battery bank. But there's all kinds of blinky modes. I think the blinky modes are too distracting, but I have this on whenever I ride. And I told somebody today, I said, this isn't, about making like a happy thing. This is about having cars being able to see me. That's the main thing. But this is the park tonight, and the lights went out on the walkway, and right over there, can't see it, that was the place where I was gonna sit tonight. But hey, there was somebody there, and they were smoking a cigarette and looking at their phone. And people take, they take breaks here just about anywhere. Like my house is a frequent place for people to take some kind of a break. And it's kind of weird. I got people coming out and they're exercising in my carport in front of my car, and for me to pull out, they have to move, and they kind of look at me like they're irritated because they have to stop. And that's kind of crazy. I did a video that I released, and I ended up taking it offline because I realized that my characterization of the behavior of the people was not fair. It was unkind, and I just haven't gotten around to doing it. I'm going to redo it and recharacterize it just as different, but not weird or strange. Just different, because the people are not weird. They're not strange. It's just different. That's all. And I mean, I've gone to leave my house, and I walk up to the front door, and my front security door has glass, and there'll be a guy sitting on my steps, just enjoying himself. Might come out, there might be 2 or 3 beer cans and 10 cigarettes. He's been there for an hour drinking beer on my doorstep. It's really funny how a lot of people here think that the outside of your house, because it's on the outside, is available. And you guys have seen, the security cam videos I've shown you of my carport, and I back up against the wall, and in front there's a space, and there's actually kind of like a retaining wall that goes around. It doesn't retain anything, but it's just that's what it looks like. And then there's a hollow space. And every once in a while I like watching monster movies and stuff. I'll stay up late, and I'll hear a scooter pull in outside. And sometimes they're running the motor. And it's 2 o'clock in the morning or 3. And I walk outside and I'm like, come on, like, it's like saying, like, what the heck? And like, I don't get it. There are, and I'm going to cover this too, there's one kid that has a electric scooter. It's got a yellow color scheme. And he parks it in the corner by the fence beside my house. He's technically on the street. And there's technically a red line, but nobody cares. So he's not on my property, and he certainly does not block my parking space at all. But he just leaves that thing there for 10 days, 2 weeks at a time. And today I saw him, and he just walked over, put the key in, turned it on, and just drove away and went somewhere. And I don't know. And he'll come back, he'll come back tomorrow or the next day, or maybe by the time I get home. And he'll leave the scooter there. He'll leave it there for another week or 10 days. It's really strange. I don't know what he does. It's just, And for years, there's a kid do the same thing. He left his bicycle there, a school kid. I saw him one day. It's like a junior high school kid. He just gets off his bike and just dumps it off there and left it. He left it there for weeks at a time. He'd come back and get on it, and it's just really interesting. But I can't tell you how many times I have, and I'm not talking about once or twice, I'm talking about like 10, 15, maybe 20 times. Just beside my car in that area, because it seems like it's quiet, people pull over the side with their scooter. I have seen people playing video games on their iPad. I'm going to touch this and see if I can focus it. Yeah. I have seen people playing video games on their iPad, sitting on their scooter beside my car. It's like, and you know, I look at my video camera and they're there for like 45 minutes, you know, or an hour. It's like, you know, in that time, you could have gone home, or you could have gone to 7-Eleven or someplace with air conditioning and it's cool. But no, they'll just sit like on their scooter. You know, women too, men, women, just no distinction. Sometimes I'll just come out and they'll be sitting with their elbows on the handlebars, just lost in thought. Just kind of crazy. I don't know why this should be, I don't know, did that focus lock? I don't know. Anyway. Yeah, it's just, I don't get it. But I don't want to characterize it as weird. It's just different. But I guess people must be comfortable. And must be comfortable with, you know, whatever it is they're doing, and just they're enjoying themselves. And so, hey, you know, who am I? Who am I to interfere with that? I'm all in favor of that. So, but the only thing I don't like is if they litter. But that lady who has been using my house for like an exercise place is kind of irritating, because here's the thing. She never says hello. She never says anything. Sometimes I'll wait for her to move, and she won't move. So I'll say to her, I'm getting in my car. Yeah, it must be the cool place. I say, yeah, I wish. If I'd known that, I would have made a nightclub or something to charge money. But I'm telling her, like, I'm going to get in my car and I'm going to leave, you know. So, could you please move? It's just crazy. So fortunately, when I was gone, nothing weird happened. Something cool actually happened though, because I had like I said, I had that little space in front of my car. There's a wall. It's a curved wall, and so there's like a cubby hole in there, you know. And when I got my new mattress, oh my gosh, because my back was hurting so bad. I told you about this. I went and I got a made in Taiwan custom ordered mattress. It was phenomenal. It didn't cost that much money. It only cost about $1,200 US, and it's just amazing. And the mattress makes all the difference, trust me. So I got this mattress, and I just took the old one downstairs by myself, right? And well, yeah. All right, I'll get to that in a second. No, wait a minute. No, I asked the guys to take it downstairs. They said, okay. And I just said, just throw it up against the wall. I said, okay. So then I dragged it around and I put the old mattress just inside that cubby hole. And I left it there. I figured, one of these days, I'll throw it on the roof of my van, you know, the roof rack, and I'll tie it down. I'll take it over to the dump or something. And I never did. But the city recognizes that people dump stuff all the time. Like when I first moved in this house, and the previous owner took a lot of the stuff that he didn't want, and I didn't realize that he did this. He had some really interesting display cases made out of glass, like you would put like jewelry and stuff in, and he took them out of the house. Okay, fine, they're his. But a couple days later, I saw that he just had thrown them behind the house in the lot and broke some. I was like, if I'd have known that, I would have took them. I would have done something with them. Would have put one of my vintage guitars in it or something. I don't know, just being silly. But every 6 months or so, the city comes by with a truck and picks this junk up because people just will throw stuff. And while I was in France, I checked my security cameras, and sure enough, one of those trucks came by. And as they're around in the corner, they have a person that walks down the street and makes a visual, you know, and then the truck comes later, and he says, and he's pointing over there, and they grabbed my mattress and threw it in the truck and took it away for me. I was like, but it was on my property in front of my car. You know, it's kind of out of the way, wouldn't bother anybody, wasn't really an eyesore, but anyway. About the motion detector lights and stuff, I don't know. I would have to run AC power up there. I can do all that. This AC power, yeah. The electrical stuff is easy for me. I can buy the parts and all that. I talked to my wife about putting some of those, because now these days you can just buy a regular bulb that screws in that has a motion detector on. It's not even special. And I put 4 sockets up there, all tied to a line, and then, you know, but I don't know. I don't think it would do anything. I really don't. See, the problem is I'm not experiencing people stealing stuff. I'm just experiencing people using my space for exercising. You know, that's it. That's harmless. It's kind of interesting. So I'm going to recharacterize that. When I said that guy that came, you know, that I called it break time, because and the thing is I did kind of yell at him, and after a while I was like, you know what, I shouldn't have yelled at him, because he's right. What he was saying was, he threw the beer can down, and I do this too. I'm going to tell you right now, like this beer can that I just finished, I'm going to leave this beer can here, because just like at Jar Jar and every other place, these aunties walk up and down here. They'll start about 4 a.m. and they're looking for cans to turn into the recycle. This is not going to go to waste. Somebody will take this and they'll sell it. And so if I just leave it here, that's not litter. If I left a plastic bottle or a wrapper or something, it'd be a completely different thing. And he crumpled up the beer can and he tossed it in the yard behind my house, and I saw him on my camera, and I came out, and that's when I was going. I was just pointing. And he said, like, the Andy will get it later. And all I said was to him, I said, now? And he's like, okay, I'll get it now. And he got it and he took it away. And I realized, that's kind of hard-nosed of me. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just said, yeah, you're right, never mind, it's okay. Yeah, Auntie will get it, and Auntie needs the money. So here's the thing. I resolved myself that the next time I saw him, I would be a lot nicer to him. And it just so happened about 3 days later, I was coming out to my car, getting in the car, I was gonna go pick up my daughter, and his scooter was out there, and he was smoking a cigarette, and he was drinking a beer. And the first thing he asked me, he says, I'm not blocking your car, am I? And I was like, no, man, no. That's totally cool. And I gave him a big smile, and I just said, stay there as long as you want. So that's okay, that made up for it, so it's been cool. So he's come back a couple times. He realized that I maybe just was having a bad day or something, I don't know. See, the problem is sometimes, and I'm guilty of this, just like anybody else, sometimes I get sensitized to things. I hear a noise, I look at my security camera, and you make a judgment call, oh, that guy's gonna do this. Oh, he's gonna, but he's not. It's not what he's doing. And so you got to be careful that you don't walk out and go, hey, you know, and the guy, oh, because, I mean, I have gone outside. I have been in my house and heard like a cacophony of voices outside my window, my living room. I open the back door and I walk out, and there's like 6 guys laying down in front of my car in the carport smoking cigarettes. They're like working a job around the neighborhood or something. I've got, you know, the overhang, right? And they're getting out of the sun and they're just laying down on the bare concrete, maybe got their head up against the wall, smoking cigarettes, taking a break. And I'll walk out and go, hey guys, this is an arrest area. And they're like, oh, okay, and they'll get up and leave. But I probably should just say, because here's the thing, my wife always complains to me because she says, oh, they throw their cigarettes, there's cigarettes everywhere. So I guess if I just say, look, you guys can stay here, but can you pick up your cigarette butts, okay? They'd probably be like, oh, okay, no problem. So, yeah. But what it is, I've had so many problems, like where the woman that, this is the one that bothers me the most. It bothers me the most because of what I did. Somebody parked in front of my parking space and blocked my car so I couldn't get out, and they left it there for 2 days. They came in the morning one day, left it all day, overnight, and all the next day, and then finally like noon on the third day, they came and got it. And I had called the police 2 times, and they put 2 600 NT tickets on it. They put one for each day, and 600 NT is $20, so they got $40. Now that in Taiwan, that's a lot of money. I heard the car start. I go, they're leaving. I ran out, and holy hell broke loose. And I was yelling at her, you left your car for 2 days. I called the cops. I couldn't leave. I had to take a taxi because I couldn't move. You know, what should I do? Should I bust the window of your car? Should I put a hook on it and tow it away? And as I was screaming at her, I looked in the car, she's pregnant. So, yep. She's pregnant. I was yelling at a pregnant lady. She was so apologetic, and as soon as I saw she was pregnant, I stopped instantly, and I'm like, oh, what an ass. So she went down the street and parked at another place, and I walked over really slow, because I didn't want to think I was chasing her. I walked her really slow, and as she was getting in the car, I said, I'm very sorry that I yelled at you. I was angry. That's all. I'm sorry. But man, oh man. So I did learn something from that. But yeah. And you get sensitized. But like I tell my wife, I'm just not in this world, man. I'm never going to be perfect. Never. So all we can do is try to live and learn. And the rest is just, you know, asking forgiveness. But that's all you can do. So I generally try not to yell at people, because then you're not always on the high ground, right? It's funny because when I'm telling other people ask me, MJ, what should I do? This guy's doing this and everything. And the first thing I say is just remain on the high ground. Whatever you do, just stay on the high ground. You know, and then no matter what happens, you know, you don't have to apologize. And so what do? I go out and I yell at a pregnant lady. Real good example. Stellar example. Boy, you know, call me exemplary. Not. Yeah, so that bothered me for weeks, and I never saw her again. But it turns out they were moving. They're poor. They don't have much money. And they were physically taking car loads, like one at a time, and they had another vehicle that they were using because their car was small and they didn't know what to do with their car, so they just parked it in a spot that nobody else was parked in, and they didn't actually realize that I couldn't get out. And so that's what happened. So I never saw them again. But another time I was out and I came back and somebody had actually backed into my parking space like they owned it. So I told my wife, get out, and I parked like so close, like this close to their car, and I just sat there. And finally the guy shows up, he comes around the corner, and I'm sitting in front of my car, and he obviously can't get in his car. And I asked him, I said, no man, no, listen, let me tell you, I don't have any problem apologizing if I'm wrong. I don't apologize for things that I don't do. But no, this is absolutely, anybody who is wrong and realizes it and doesn't apologize, that is a sin. See, it's one thing to make a mistake. And I've always said this, what people do by mistake or an accident doesn't bother me. There's a big difference between spilling a beer on somebody and throwing a beer on somebody. So it's a big difference. But all right, so I just said something. I usually don't lose my train of thought, but that was pretty intense. It'll come back to me in a second. So, anyway, in general, Taiwan people are very patient with me too, because sometimes, I mean, I got to talk Chinese, and my grammar isn't perfect, my pronunciation isn't perfect, and they don't make fun of me, and they'll just help me. There's one thing about Taiwan people in general that I want you all to understand. When I was living in the States, in Florida, I met a Mexican guy. I was about 16, he was around my age. Super, super nice guy. And if anybody knows Mexicans, they're usually very polite, very well mannered, because their mama will beat the crap out of them if they're not, right? And he was complaining to me that he said American people sometimes laugh at me if I say the wrong thing. I said, well, what did you say? He said, well, I needed some change. And I needed two nickels for a dime, and I asked for 2 nipples. And the guy started laughing. And I said, don't worry about that, I understand. What I discovered about Taiwan people is if you say something perfectly, then they laugh. So I remember the first time I was with some guys, and one guy was a college professor. He was a lot older than me. I was like 19 years old. And I was with some Taiwan guys, including Professor Lee and some others. And I was talking Chinese. And whenever I said something, they busted out laughing, right? So, oh boy, you know what? That just disappeared so quick. I got to show this. I have to show this to Jake, because that's disappearing. So, all right, I'll answer that in just a second. So I was talking with them and asking, why are you guys laughing? And they said, oh no, you don't understand. We're laughing because you're speaking perfect Chinese. It's just amazing. I'm like, oh really? I said, okay, because I'm used to people laughing at me when they say something wrong. As I was saying, Mike, when I first came back to Taiwan, I mean, I don't really get jet lag, and it wasn't that long of a flight, it was like 11 hours to China, and then 2 hours over to Taiwan. The first night I went to bed, and I woke up and I thought I was still in Paris. And this happened for over a week. I would wake up feeling like I was still in France. Pretty interesting. That's never happened to me before. Whenever I go to, any place else, I go to Thailand or, wherever, Bali, wherever. I always know I've left and I come back, and I always know I'm in Taiwan, but it was interesting. Very interesting. I had such a great time. I'm ready to go back. But I haven't told one of the craziest stories, because it finally came to an end. But the landlord of the first place we went, it was an Airbnb, he accused us of doing some bad things. He accused us of breaking his washing machine, which we never used. It's funny, my wife sometimes takes pictures of things, right? It really was, for me, in a lot of ways. And for the most part, it completely reoriented my viewpoint of France. And my viewpoint of France and the French people was mostly formed based on hearsay and some limited interaction with French people, you know, that I met in the States. I spent quite a bit of time in Quebec, and I had a lot of fans up there. I had a fan base, and I went up to visit my fans several times in the 90s, but they're not from France. They're French-speaking Canadians. And so I got used to hearing the language and reading the signs, and I dug it. It was really cool. But our visit to France blew every stereotype I've ever heard of the French out, just completely out of the water, all of it. Parisians are cold, they're jerks and stuff. No, they're not. You're the problem. You can't walk up to somebody and go, hey, do you know where this is? They're like, excuse me? Do you know how to say hello? See, even in Taiwan, we say ni hao. Nobody actually says hello. Taiwanese will say hello to me in English, and I'll joke with them. They'll go, hello. I'll go, oh, hello, hello, hello. I'll go, I'm not a phone. and they start laughing, right? Because we say ni hao, which literally means, how are you? And that's what Americans do. They go, hey, how are you doing? How you doing? They might say, hi, how you doing? But they don't just go, hello, and that's it. But in France, you say bonjour, right? Which is literally good morning. And you can say bonsoir at night, right? But I just made it a point. I told my family, I said, no matter what you learn how to say bonjour, and you talk to anybody, the first thing you say, bonjour, changes everything. It also changes how you look. If you don't look, I mean, I proved myself still in many occasions to be an ignorant American 20 years removed from the United States. Still, there were some things that I did just strictly out of stupidity and ignorance. I mean, I know I did. But for the most part, the people, the Parisians were amazing, very helpful. It depends on your attitude. You know, here's what I found. I found that I would just ask people, I would say, bonjour, please excuse me, I have to speak English, is that okay? And virtually all the Parisians speak English. Sure, no problem. And I go, oh, thank you, sir. And then I would say, I need your help. I'm trying to find this place. Man, somebody would like take us, walk with us 3 or 4 blocks down the street and go, okay, there, you see that? Yeah, that's where you want to be. Really? Okay, thank you. And then they would go about their business. But they went out of their way like 3, 4, 5 blocks, you know, and this happened a lot everywhere we went. And some of the artists did some free stuff for us just because I was polite and kind to them. And I didn't argue too much, you know, like about prices. We would sometimes negotiate, but it's all friendly because that's what we do in Chinese society. And you don't get upset, you don't get mad, you don't raise your voice. It's a negotiation, but it's supposed to be fun and friendly, and that's just how we did it. So we were basically very kind of much like Taiwanese, and Taiwanese have a little bit different, I think, standard of politeness. You know, the Asian standard of politeness, a little bit higher, you know, so. Yeah. And well, the funny thing is when I saw somebody that I recognized was Chinese, I would say, you know, s'il vous plaît, parlez-vous chinois? And they would be like, oui, and then say, oh, how fan bien. It's like, oh, so convenient, like that. That happened several times, 3 times actually that I can remember. And then after that, it was so much easier just to communicate in Chinese and ask questions about, you know, what time do you open, and you know, are these seats for your restaurant, or are they for, you know, that kind of stuff. So it was really cool. But yeah. So we went to one cafe. And you walk in with a smile on your face. You don't have a scowl. And they see me with my daughter and my wife. And I got my beautiful hat that I bought in Paris. I walk in with my Marvin haircut. I was like, you know, bonjour, monsieur. English, okay? And he's like, English no good. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. This guy sat down at the table with his personal mobile phone and Google Translate and literally translated virtually the entire menu for us. And I felt really bad because right as he was finishing up, I said, honey, telling my wife, there's a QR code on the table that I didn't notice. I scanned the QR code and the guy goes, oh, yeah. He forgot. English menu popped up. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. He said it was hilarious. It's hilarious. Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. So you say she's your ex-wife. I'm assuming she probably yelled at you in French too. My mom was born on the border, and she used to say stuff to me like "fermez la bouche" and stuff like that. I grew up hearing a couple French phrases that were all not pleasant. My mother didn't teach me how to be polite in French. She just yelled at me in some French words. But yeah, the QR code helped, you know, and we were able to order. It was really nice. But everywhere we went, people went out of their way. I only had one guy that's kind of it was a taxi driver who was coming off of work. It was last night we were there. You know when I did that live stream and I showed the Eiffel Tower, you know, and we were on the Champ de Mars, and you know what I'm talking about. This the last night. And we took a taxi and the guy wanted cash only, didn't want to do a credit card. And when I asked for a receipt, he printed out somebody else's receipt and he just crossed out the name and he just says, here, you can just write whatever you want. We're like, okay, I guess that's not a receipt, but that was like the only guy the last night I was there. What can I tell you? Didn't run into any problems, no pickpockets. Nobody tried to cheat us, nobody tried to rob us. I mean, I have a friend in Taiwan, he was telling me, he says, oh yeah, two gypsy girls will lay a map on your table and ask you about some different places, and then they take the map away and all your phones are gone. I'm like, no. And then he said, 3 or 4 people will push you into the subway and then push you into the car, and then you'll check in your phone and your wallet and everything's gone. I'm like, nope. I bought little locks and I locked all the zippers, and I taught Phoenix and Mommy, and we locked our zippers, but nobody even tried them. It was bizarre. Yeah, nothing. So, French onion soup. Yes. Yes. The very last day. I've had it before. Had it in the States. Didn't know how it would add up. But it was quite good. However, that was a very touristy area. We were just around the corner from the Eiffel Tower. What I want to do is I want to spend the last night near the Eiffel Tower. So I went to a street that we'd been on before, went to another cafe, and the beef bourguignon that we had at that place was the same as when we first arrived and had it at this other place down the street, right? And the same kind of you know, iron pot and everything. It was too salty in both cases. I think it was the same supplier that just supplied both of them. I don't think they were actually cooking it. But the French onion soup was quite good, and everything was high quality, just like Japan. I always thought Japan had the highest food quality of any place I've ever been, and France is just equal to or exceeds that in the quality index. But Patrick introduced me to Picon, P-I-C-O-N. It's a French brand of a special syrup that you add to beer to flavor it. It makes it darker and it makes it a little sweeter, but it adds this really interesting flavor. We were at this restaurant, it was specialized in salmon, and we're looking at the menu. He says, let me introduce you to this. This is the Blanc, the white beer with pecan. I said, okay, and it had an amber color to it because of the pecan syrup, and so I got to find some now. I haven't seen it in Taiwan. I got to look for it. I think I know a place that might have it, but I got to find it. But yeah, that was a really good experience. So I would ask for the hey, wow, look at that. My microphone light's on. Wonder why it's on. I would ask for the pecan, when I would order beer, and it was just another euro or so to add it to. Oh, I wonder what's going on, because it's oh, there you go. I guess you press the button, it goes off again. I don't know. Yeah, I don't want the. Hang on. I don't want the light on. It's kind of distracting. But yeah, this is the first time I've actually really talked extensively about our trip, to France. It was, I'd say, life-changing. There's no way I can ever pay our hosts back. I mean, it was just phenomenal. I'm hoping they'll come here, but I got to buy another house and prepare some nice guest houses. But now my wife's saying, maybe we should buy a house in France. I'm like, oh boy, okay. Got to make some more money, but the houses that we saw were very reasonably priced. Not bad at all. I mean, it was a little embarrassing. In Western cultures, you don't really ask that stuff. So I explained to my solicitor, my wife's an accountant, we own a business, and we're Taiwanese, so we're going to ask you, I mean, if you don't mind, like, what's the value of the homes and the properties, in the area? And he told us. I'm like, wow, I thought it would be a lot more, but it wasn't. But I was starting to tell you about the landlord at the B&B. It was a really nice place in Victor Hugo. My wife had picked an amazing spot, an amazing part, in my opinion, of Paris called Victor Hugo, and we were actually on Victor Hugo Avenue, and there were some amazing restaurants and bakeries and things around there. Really upscale place, beautiful place. I could have stayed there. It's great. And when I go back to Paris, that's going to be a place that I'm going to hang out in. But he accused us of breaking the dishwasher, and we didn't use it. My wife takes pictures sometimes of things. This is what I wanted to say before that I lost my train of thought. And my wife just took some pictures of the dishes that she had washed in the dish drainer for some odd reason. Turns out when the guy accused us of breaking the dishwasher, my wife sent him the, yeah, that he is. And so is Leonardo da Vinci. And so, yeah, and then he's looking for things to try to ding us with. See, because we left his place 2 days early because he didn't pay the internet. I mean, I have a screen capture. He didn't pay his internet bill. This guy's supposed to be a lawyer, and he told us, listen to this, he told us, don't tell anybody that you're from Airbnb. So I think he's running it illegally. And I think he's not, I'm going to report him to the tax authorities. I'm going to wait, because we just had a dispute. I'm going to wait a while so he doesn't connect it directly. But yeah, he finally, I had to get involved. He went back and forth, and oh, I see, that's interesting. I didn't know that. He was kind of badgering my wife, and there's a lot of personal stuff in this apartment, and my wife's like, oh, we don't know what's for us to use, or what, and he said he bought a bunch of food for us, trying to be nice. Half of it was expired. He doesn't know what's going on because he doesn't run it. He just pays some people to do stuff, and they look in the ice box and they go, okay, there's some chocolate there, that's fine. And they pocket the money. Trust me, this is what's going on. He's a typical Parisian guy that doesn't give a crap, and he just got this apartment, and all he's trying to do is milk it for money. And so we use a washing machine because that was the whole idea. It was supposed to have a kitchenette and washing machine so we could, you know, do our laundry, right? So that way you don't have to pack 3 weeks worth of clothes. Duh. Nobody does it. So we're washing clothes. And then he comes back and he's going through the Airbnb arbitration system, and he posts some pictures about he had to pay for cleaning behind the washing machine because it was leaking because of us. The baseboard, the wood was rotten. The paint was off of it. There's water damage. It looks like it's about 5 or 10 years old. I don't know. So I'm rebutting this on Airbnb's website, and I said, am I the only one that notices the fact that the baseboard has significant water damage? This is not new. This has occurred over a long period of time. Yeah, I have no doubt the washing machine leaked. I have no doubt that there's water behind there. He had to clean it up. But we didn't do it. It's been there for a long time. So that's when I said, this person is dishonest, and I have decided to disregard every single thing this person says from this point forward. And if I were you, I would get an independent opinion about the dishwasher that he said we broke. And he wanted 400 and some euros, and he had, you know, like the same one brand new. It's kind of coincidental that the 400 euros, right? Right, he was. It's kind of coincidental that the 400 euros that he wanted for the broken machine was about what he lost because we went out of there because he didn't pay the internet bill. We need the internet because we're planning our itinerary. You know, and I bought tickets and stuff, and I have to and I have to be able to download the tickets for different things that we do, right? It's just asinine. So we went to London, came back 2 days later, and he still didn't pay the internet. And we told him, and we sent him the screen captures. And we sent Airbnb the screen captures too. And Airbnb actually refunded us 30% for each day that he didn't have the internet. It was like 6 days. The guy lost money because he's a dipshit. That's what he is. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I usually say dipstick. Please delete that. That's uncharacteristic for me. He's a dipstick. Sorry. I think it's the first time you guys ever heard me say a bad word. Yeah, so that's the point. But he is. He's one of those too, yeah. And so the guy's a lawyer, and he knows how to game the system. And so what can I tell you? He messed with the wrong guy. So you know, and you know me, I said in the rebuttal, I said he showed a picture of the dishwasher out of the cabinet. I said, is he a qualified technician? Why is it out of the cabinet? Did he take it out? How do I know he didn't damage it? And I said, I'm an engineer. It is important. When you're traveling, it's 1 day is okay. I understand. But it's due to non-payment. That's the stupidest thing. All he's got to do. And I had my friend Patrick call him, and he never answered. He just got the voicemail. You know, it's stupid. My friend Patrick talked to him in French. So I said, look, I've kept my washing machine running for 12 years by replacing broken parts. Why does the entire dishwasher have to be replaced for 400 euros? What's wrong with it? What's broken? Did he get an estimate from a qualified repair person? That's what I told Airbnb. You need to get a disinterested third party that you trust to go over there and examine the damage. And finally, Airbnb came back and said, we've determined that you don't owe him anything. Thank you, Airbnb. Now, I have refrained from giving him a bad review. I have mixed feelings about that. I don't know if I should or not. But I really like the apartment, and I wouldn't mind buying it from him, but Victor Hugo is a nice place. but it's not that guy. But I am kind of concerned about how he told us not to tell anybody, and that just is something wrong. You know, he's not allowed to run an Airbnb in that business. It might be there might be a community, you know, committee or something, or he's not reporting the revenue properly or something. So I'm gonna wait a while. He's never gonna see this live stream, and if he does, better look out. Scammer payback. I'm going to report him to the French tax authorities and let them check it out. Hey, if he's legit and he's clean, fine, no problem. If they find out he's legit and clean, he'll never hear anything from them. They'll just check the paperwork and the registration and go, oh, this guy's cool. But if it's not, then they're going to hear then he's going to hear from them. But I'm going to wait a while because I don't want him to connect them with me. But there you go. But it's an interesting apartment, you know. And one of the things that I did was I got up earlier in the morning, about 6 o'clock, and they got an inner courtyard. I took pictures of everything. And those French windows, you know, you open the center, you know, knob, and the rods come up, and the windows open up, and you know, they're interlocked, and the windows open up. And it was nice and cool, way cooler than was here. I took a super hot bath at 6 o'clock in the morning, cracked open the windows, cold air coming in, and I lathered my face up and used my Arc 5 electric razor in the bathtub. I was like, man, this is really cool. Closed the windows because I didn't want anybody to see my fat self getting up out of the tub. That would have stunted their emotional growth. But then I, you know, went downstairs and went to the Starbucks, and just the general offerings at Starbucks were so off the charts, just fantastic. So blueberry and other fresh fruit pastries that were just, oh my goodness. So there you go. It made me so upset I said a bad word. I'm going to go home and I'm going to rinse my mouth out with soap. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been on for 1:32, hour 32. Thank you, Dean. Thanks for hanging out. I'm going to sign off and say goodnight, and I'm going to say bonjour, and merci, xie xie, wan an. Thank you so much. Yeah, and my friend Patrick, they had that in their house in Marsan. It was really nice because you could crack open those wooden shutters, you know, so like they would open up and form just like a triangle. The air could still come in the windows. That was nice. Really practical. So you guys take care, and I'm going to try to be on Sunday. Thanks so much for joining, and we will see you next time on The Real Taiwan. Have a good evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are. Going to say good night and bye-bye.